as we do, we need to? Is it still faux pas to ask people to subscribe to the channel? Is that a thing people hate?
Yes, it's
Don't
a thing
hate
people
us.
hate. But apparently, because people I watch, they're like, "Hey, we hate saying it, you hate hearing it, but it's the only. It works. It gets people to do it." It's that thing where it's like algorithmically, yes, we need to say it.
We're gonna put this moral dilemma on the end of the episode. This whole thing unedited. Just be like, guys, I don't know if you've noticed this. It's just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
We both work full time. Outside of this, I've got 2 kids and I'm married. She hasn't kicked me out yet. This is just us doing the editing, the graphics, the recording. If you want us to keep doing this, you want to try and support us, the subscribe button, I guess, helps. Like, seeing that number goes up makes me feel good inside.
The subscribe button definitely helps. I mean, that for sure. I mean, that'll increase.
If you wanna like the video,
algorithm, for sure,
go ahead. I don't know what that does. We're both new to YouTube. We're not owned by any kind of like corporate channel or anything like that. So yeah, hit the big red button. It makes the number go up, and that makes me happy in my pants.
Welcome back to another episode of Neon City Gaming. Last time we discussed microtransactions and DLC, and during that we touched on the subject of cosmetics dress-up games a little bit. And considering we're both big fans of the feature in the game and usually spend way more hours actually making the characters as opposed to playing the game, we figured we'd go over where it started, where it's going, and how we feel about the current status in the industry, and any standout moments along the way.
Okay, so I think we need to address what we mean when we say dress-up games, because dress-up games is what my wife says are the types of games I like to play. And she's not incorrect. That is the crux of what I'm doing with these games. Games where you can customize your character, where you've got armor loadouts, that you can change the appearance of your character. Basically, the more customization you give me in a game, the more colors I can change my armor to, my character's haircut, anything like that. I'm all about that. And that will keep me playing a game for longer than almost anything else. I don't know what it is. That's me.
I'm not sure if it actually keeps me playing longer. On the tail end, it'll definitely keep me, a lot more invested in the front half for sure. Because then it's like, oh, okay, let me spend 15 hours making my character.
Well, I mean, outside of just character creation, because I'm a sucker for a good character creator too. But when I do something in game, and I think let me start at the beginning, I guess. If you remember back old school RPGs, you'd have characters that had names, they had their own appearances, things of that nature. But then you would equip a different weapon. Like your RPG hero, your standard RPG hero, you'd equip a different sword, and that sword would appear in their hands. Blew my mind. When we were younger, and that kind of stuff happened. And then when it started happening with armor and things of that nature, and then you could create your character, being in that headspace, because we were talking about DLCs in the last episode, right? And cosmetics. And cosmetics hit me more than anything else on those, because I'm all about that character customization. The only money we were talking about giving DLCs and microtransactions, the only money I gave was to Darktide for some spiffy new duds. I'm all about that, my man.
For sure. I mean, I could play and enjoy a game without it, but it does make me more invested in it, especially if the character is a no-name nobody, because then I can, mold it to myself.
A blank slate.
I'm a sucker for if it's a sci-fi. I guess not even just a sci-fi, but I like armor. You give me layers and have different things to change. I'm all about that as well. It used to be in games that you could get all that stuff, right?
Earn it, in game.
Yeah. Now it's buy a pack. Most cosmetics nowadays are microtransactions. To tie it back into the last episode, I mean, but not to get back into it fully.
Right, but no, a lot of the games have that too. But I mean, like, so to give specifics and give examples, World of Warcraft. So World of Warcraft, I've been playing we've been playing WoW since we played beta, didn't we?
Yeah.
Vanilla. I was at the height. The height of my gaming was in World of Warcraft was Frozen Throne, or no, Wrath of the Lich King. That's what it was called. But I played all the way up through. Oh my God, what was it called? Shadowlands. I don't have Dragonflight. But what kept me playing is my investment in the character fantasy. So I created a character for a very specific example. I'll use my shaman and my Death Knight. I've had my Death Knight since Wrath. And the only thing that kept me going was not because I was never in a huge raiding guild or anything like that. It was finding new weapons and armor because they introduced transmogs. Transmogs, for those of you who don't play World of Warcraft or maybe not in MMOs, because they're in a lot of different games now, means you can equip a weapon or a piece of armor for its stat, and then you can change its appearance to any of the other transmogs or appearances that you have unlocked. That saved World of Warcraft for me. Because like the writing was good back in the day and I was really invested in the world, but now it's just escalated to the point where you're literally fighting the personifications of gods and death, and that's just where do you go from there. So for me, it's adding as many cool cosmetics to my clothes closet as possible. And that kept me going through expansions more than new worlds, new quests, things of that nature. It was what cool assets have they made. And that translates over to other games because it was my character fantasy. Like the whole mental headcanon backlore for all my characters intertwined into the world and into each other. And that carries me through a lot of games. That's how I played old school RPGs with blank slate characters. Anything like that. Even fighting games and like Halo Infinite and the FPS. It's all about the headcanon for me. And customization in games, that's what cements it for me. That's the hook, and it's in me deep.
Yeah, no, it's the same for me too. Like, the best I can think of right now, in terms of what I want when it comes to cosmetics in a game, Assassin's Creed, like Ubisoft probably is the king right now when it comes to that. It's similar to WoW, except it's a little more free for. Like, you can do it anywhere. You don't have to transmog at a specific store. You can just go into your inventory. Oh, I don't like that chest piece anymore. Let me change it out for one of the other looks I have.
The last couple of AC games, Assassin's Creed games, have been very good on transmogs. I will say that. Valhalla, and that's what kept me playing Valhalla for as long as it did, because that game almost freaking killed me with how many side quests and activities it had on that damn map. Because
for me,
I mean, you know how I play games. I got to check every nook and cranny.
I would say you're you're a completionist. Like,
yeah,
you're going to clear the map as you go along, kind of thing.
I have to find out which way is the right way to go, and then don't go that way until I'm forced to go that way. But it was cosmetics. It was like that character fantasy that my guy. That's my character,
right?
And you can build like a whole headcanon behind why they use a certain weapon, why they wear this certain piece of armor, and I don't know if that's a thing with a lot of other people, if I'm in the minority on that, but I guess it just comes from like growing up as a kid playing just with toys and imagination. And I'm not trying to be that like old guy yells at clouds like, oh, the kids these days, they just don't have the imagination anymore. Back in my day, we played with a stick and a rock, and the rock was a robot, and the stick was its best friend, and they went on adventures everywhere.
It's that classic toy everyone used to play with, the stick and ring, where they're rolling the stick down the hill.
The ring with the stick.
Yeah.
There's a name for that. I can't remember what it is. But no, that's what it is. And that's what drives my fantasy in a game. But it doesn't have to be a blank slate character. One of my favorite series of all time, Mass Effect, lets you customize your character's appearance, armor, later on in the series, weapons, and then even in the first one, create your own backstory. Like, it has backstories that actually affect the game. I was all about that. Oh man, love me some Mass Effect.
I didn't even hear you bring up Mass Effect. My bad. I was still looking at poop rolling.
You were looking up what?
Hoop rolling. I got sidetracked on the...
Oh my god. You said poop rolling, and I was like, what
no.
are you... We're trying to do an episode here. What are you doing?
Dung beetling over here.
Oh my goodness. But no, Mass Effect.
Mass
lot
Effect
of
is probably the
customizations.
first game that I could think of that you could semi-make a good-looking character. Because before that, you had all the Bethesda.
You can still make some monsters.
Like, I mean, you can. Don't get me wrong. I made a weird, like, huge-chinned, like, ginger dude. It was weird back in the day on the Xbox. But thank God in the remake they fixed some things. But it's not a Bethesda character creator. Like, their cosmetics and everything were
I love
a decision.
I love how the character customization in Oblivion was try and not make a monster, and the character creator in Skyrim was try and make a monster. Because you could make something that looked halfway decent in Skyrim, but Oblivion, it was a trial, man.
Right? Don't even get me started on Morrowind.
But the Elder Scrolls...
I never played a human character in Morrowind because of how monstrous the humans looked.
The Elder Scrolls games, and by extension, Fallout, the newer Fallout games, really good character fantasy. You get to customize the way your character looks, things of that nature. More so in the new Fallout than any of the other games. With Skyrim, at least, I modded the hell out of that, so I had a ton of different armor options.
See, I was going to say, for the Bethesda titles, yes, on the character creation side of it, but the dress-up side of it is a little lacking because it's mostly armor, so it is going to be what class you are, and as opposed to how you want to look. And I wasn't a fan of some of the armors, to be honest. But, I mean, I'm more power to people who were, but it's just, it didn't have a transmog. Like, you wanted, all stats were tied to certain armor pieces, which wouldn't bug me if it was more like a medium armor versus light armor kind of thing, not you want that looking medium armor. Well, you have to have that particular medium armor to look like that, otherwise, you'll have the rusty Viking looking armor or whatever.
You can enchant them.
But did it actually like give you the same exact stats as another one, or like?
I mean, with enchanting, you can make stuff broken as hell.
Oh, okay, so I didn't play with the chain.
I
mostly just try climbing up a mountain.
This is my thong. I have it enchanted with plus 400 armor. It's called the Song of General Sherman, and it bounces tank shots.
This is the base game, or is this mods?
Well, okay, to be fair, I have been playing Skyrim with mods for so long, and I've been playing with so many mods, but I think in vanilla you could enchant at least like health regen and stuff like that. And there's always that Elder Scrolls pitfall you can fall into where you use potion making to make your enchantment stronger, and then make a ring that makes you better at potion making, and then it just feeds into itself until you're literally God on Nern.
Okay, so as long as you mess with all the crafting abilities and all that.
Right, but even if you can't customize the way certain things look, Elder Scrolls and Fallout do a good job of character fantasy. It's a whole world.
This is true,
it's wide open. You can do almost anything. I have played Fallout 4 was the last one. A lot. I have never found my son. I have never made it to the Institute.
Same.
I every time I play a game, I'm like, this is going to be the one. This is when I'm going to find my son. And then I make it to that drive-in movie theater, and I turn it into like a 4-story fortress.
Because I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, because that's the first one that really looks like a good spot to start playing.
Because it's like a big open area.
Yeah, and then you have that one wall where the screen's at. Yeah, no, that's a great spot. And yeah, I turtled there, made my... Because for me, the point of the game was just all Bethesda main titles, like their main quest usually leaves me, but they're the power armor, all the different power armors. I wanted to collect all the different power armors, have them setting up on my little stand.
But was it you collecting power armor, or was it your character collecting power armor? Because that's a big distinction. Because for me, when I play those games, it's all about what my character is doing.
Well, it depends, because like sometimes it's one and the same. Because it depends. Is this a game where I want to have a self-insert? Usually those type of games where it's first-person adventuring, mostly like a Bethesda title, it's a self-insert. So it is a version of me. Like I will make the decisions I would probably make in this world, kind of thing, as opposed to something completely not in character. So but at the same time, like I'm not. It's not a one-to-one.
So let's establish some background, I guess it was, because whenever I come from things, like I derive enjoyment out of the character fantasy. So I like having detailed backstories. Whenever I'm playing a character in a game, if the game doesn't outright allow for it or provide options for it, I know what my character's upbringing was up here, and other likes and dislikes. I think it's why, because I played a lot of D&D. D&D and other tabletop role-playing games growing up. Old school, like White Wolf, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Vampire the Masquerade, Hunter, and then D&D, Pathfinder, and then what was that? Mech Warrior, BESM, that old anime tabletop role-playing game. Tristat.
That was Tristat. The system. Okay, yeah, I only played.
That's what it was. Tristat
and the Star Wars one, and then a couple of D&D/Pathfinder games.
So video games that allow me to do that, or at least set the groundwork for me to then fill in the blanks myself. All about that. One of the biggest things about so I'm in Warhammer 40k. Obviously, I've got a ton of different armies. I started off vanilla Ultramarines, Gilliman's Blueberries. I don't know if you know who the Ultramarines are, right? Yeah, the blue ones. They're the poster children of 8th and 9th edition, which are the current editions. 10th just came out. But the Ultramarines were in the new trailer for 10th edition. So those are the poster boys. Tons of different, hundreds of different chapters to pick from, all with their own lore, pre-established, right?
Right.
My main Space Marine army is a made-up chapter. They're my guys. And that's what that's all about. That's the same thing with the video games. They're my guys. They've got their own color scheme, background, lore. I've got all the officers are named. They're a successor chapter to the Imperial Fist. And it just it feeds into that. Dawn of War, way back on PC.
Yeah, Dawn of War, I would agree to that because
had the army painter.
Years, like your Warhammer, yes, I agree 100% with the having my own character's backstory and all that. I was just saying for like when it's an individual character that's first person, that's usually when I do the character insert. Usually, like I'll do a fantasy version of myself or whatever. Not always, because I mean, I'll play. Sometimes I'll play a female character, and obviously I'm not female, but sometimes it's got the better character model, or they just look cooler, and I'd rather make that character.
I don't think I've ever played a self-insert where I'm playing, because I never name my characters after myself.
Oh, no, I don't name them after myself either. I don't mean a direct one-to-one, like I said earlier. I don't mean like it's a direct me in the world. It's just, I'm going to play it like if I were this person. Right?
Oh, as far as the choices and morality of the character.
Yeah, like, and then the design choices of both the way he looks, like...
Do you find it hard? Do you find it hard to play evil characters?
Yes, because I'm not an evil character or an evil person. So like, I have to.
As far as you know, I'm not an evil character.
As far as
I'm a good boy.
I do. It depends on the game, I guess. Like
your name is Dark Frost.
I mean, yeah, but that's more about like brooding. Like
that's from the Edgelord days.
Yeah, well, not so much edgelord. It's just like Templar versus Dark Templar in StarCraft kind of thing. The Dark Templar are way cooler, but they weren't evil.
No.
That thing, but
then you lose out on half the customization options because all the cool stuff is for the evil characters. All the sharp, pointy stuff, all the dark black stuff,
most of my characters are morally gray, so
More okay. So they get the whole option, right?
oh yeah, because back in the day, like one of my favorite character custom games, KOTOR back in the day, the first
Oh yeah.
BioWare game I played, got to make my own Jedi. I made him I'm pretty sure he was a scoundrel. Whatever the lightweight dude, not the smuggler, but the dude with the red jacket. I can't remember what it was. But and I knew eventually he was going to be a dual wielding. Because my Star Wars character is always dual wielding. He's got a red saber and a blue saber.
One of those Taru guys.
He's a Grey Knight kind of thing because he's got Force Heal and he's got Force Lightning. Like not so much Force Choke, but he can use Force Lightning. Like he ain't about the whole like, oh, we can't hurt people. No, he'll stab a fool. But I would stab a person in real life. So that's what I'm getting at. Like I'll just play it depending on how I want to play the character, but it's going to be involved with my characteristics, my nuances, my hiccups, or whatever.
It's as if you were presented with the choices in games. You make the choice that you would make.
Yeah, if I was born in this world, or if I was this character, kind of thing.
Sometimes I do that, but sometimes I'm a murderous asshole. Sometimes because I play. I'll be completely honest with you. A lot of the character, like my character gender, it depends on where the cool armor is. What looks the coolest.
Yeah, no, sure. Whatever looks, I will go aesthetics over stats 99% of the time out of 10.
So the dress-up game thing came from. Have you ever played Dragon Ball Xenoverse?
I played a little bit of it. That's the MMO.
It is. Well, it's not an MMO,
but it's like the online games as a service thing, though.
Kind of. So it's Dragon Ball Xenoverse, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. It's a fighting game.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's the game as a service game.
It is a fighting game, but it's got a massive single-player aspect to it. But it's a game that's made specifically for me. I swear. Because obviously, I love Dragon Ball. Who doesn't love Dragon Ball Z? And it lets you create your own character. Saiyan, Frieza race. They don't want to commit to a name for that race. It's literally just Frieza race. A Majin race, a Namekian. I feel like there's a race. Oh, human. But you can customize move sets, super moves that you unlock from different characters, and then like just cosmetics as far as the eye can see. And that's the driving force behind the game. Yeah, there's a story. It's the story of Dragon Ball Z, and it's got some timey-wimey stuff thrown in there. Who cares? You can unlock these cool pants. You can get this cool Saiyan armor. You can get a Scouter. You can do this. You can unlock moves. If you're a Saiyan, you can unlock different transformations. Frieza Race can unlock different transformations. It's an awesome dress-up game. And that's what that's my wife first started calling them dress-up games, is with that one. Because I had to sit there and explain to her. She's like, what's going on? Why is Trunks doing this? Why is Vegeta and Goku just chilling in, these weird floating versions of their world? And I'm like, baby, it's all about the cool dress up. You gotta get those pants. I want those Namekian pants. I want those cool shoulder pads. I want that turban. I want a rocket.
I am the Great Saiyan.
I am the Great Saiyan. I've got to get that pose.
Right.
Oh man, but that
what
was
is it
it's the ultimate character fantasy, the ultimate embodiment of your character, because that's your character, fully customized on everything. And the character's when you talk about blank slate, like if your character, if the camera focuses on your character's face, there's just, the lights are on but no one's home, that kind of blank slate, like never says anything, communicates through various like slight gestures and grunts.
I've always wanted to get into it, but it was a little too shallow for me to really get into.
I get it. 90% of the fun from that game was all up here. It's all up in here. But I can do that with anything. That's why I didn't know if this was going to translate well to like. And please, if you're watching this and you commiserate with me at any level, let me know so I don't feel like some kind of weird outcast. But like even in first-person shooters, the more customization you give me, if that plate carrier has stats on it or not, just let me customize the way it looks. Rainbow Six Vegas 2. played that way longer than it had any right to be played. Because once you beat the story, it's got some other like versus modes, things of that nature. But man, you can unlock some cosmetics by earning XP in that game, and you better believe I played through that campaign mission like 60 times to unlock the plate carriers and helmets and colors.
That was the last modern shooter I really enjoyed. Like
Vegas 2?
Like, yeah, in terms of like taking place in modern warfare kind of thing, as opposed to futuristic or fantasy or whatever. Just because the cosmetics, and then I love that one had that cover system I liked.
That was a good
showed off your character. You were able to see your, because like for me, there's no point in customizing your character if you can't see your character. And that's why I don't like a lot of games where they don't give you a lot of opportunities for like see your character doing something else, or give me a third person camera, one of the two. I'm way more into third person over first person in terms for cosmetics.
And there's a difference. Real quick before we move on, I'm sorry, but there's a difference between customizing the way your character looks for a character fantasy and unlocking skins for a predetermined character. Those are two completely different things in my mind.
Yeah.
Because no. But while we were talking about shooters, that's something that popped into my mind because I don't want people
about, like the modern day, like with Fortnite and
yeah, but modern day Rainbow Six specifically, because you can unlock different skins for the operators. But to me, that's not character.
Rainbow Six Siege is a thing. I forgot that was even a thing.
It's okay. It's only one of the most popular
obviously.
tactical team shooters, and it's okay. Counter-Strike 2 is coming out, so we'll see how that survives. Sorry, I cut you off there, but I wanted to make sure that's the distinction. That it has to be customization that aids to the character fantasy or the character ownership, not just like I'm playing this character.
Slate character with Xenoverse. I was going to bring up my favorite blank slate character is Way of Samurai, because you literally are a blank slate when you start that off. You're
that is a
wandering samurai
old game.
In this, well, they're made 5.
They made a lot of them. I played
4
up through
released in
3.
Japan. You had to get like buy it digitally on PS3, I think, is what I have it, or Steam. But yeah, you just. I mean, the main problem with that game is you don't have that many cosmetics to start off with any of those games. You only have like 3 heads, 3 outfits. But the fact that you're just like, hey, what kind of wandering samurai do you want to be? And who do you want to join? How do you want to get to the end of the timeline or whatever? And I'll play my character various different ways, because like the first one, that's one where I will play a bad guy. I joined the guy who ties you to the train.
Oh, that's right, because you can join different families and factions in those games.
And then thankfully the first one was only 3 days long, so it was easier to go back through if you messed up.
The only thing I remember from the Way of the Samurai games, where I remember the different haircuts you could have. I remember there was a way to make your sword stronger, because you could break swords in those games, right?
Yeah, the durability is actually one of the big mechanics to it. You got to go to the black.
Take care. Like if you've got a good sword, you got to take care of it because it can shatter. Yeah. No, the only thing I remember is once I figured out that you didn't have to bend down to pick up daikon radishes to eat to gain health. That all you had to do was kick the radish up into the air, and your character would just eat it out of midair. That was game changing, because you're like in the middle of a sword fight, and you're like, haha, kick, daikon radish, boom, full health.
Though I hated it when the daikon radish was like surrounded by a bunch of swords sticking out of the ground.
So he's just kicking swords up in the air.
Oh man.
But transmogs, man, if you want me to play your game, developers who care about some random guy on a channel with 10 subscribers at the moment.
Yeah, okay, of course the last one I thought of.
Put transmogs in your game. If you put transmogs in your game, I will play your game. I will unlock Diablo 3. I finished you and everything you had to offer because of the transmog system.
See, it had 3 had a good had a robust transmog system. I just didn't like any of the cosmetics of 3. 3 was a fun game, but I hated the way everything looked.
Well, we've both played.
It was just the Nomura.
I was too saccharine for you, too bubblegum
like
and
none of
happy
the characters
light,
look
or-
like every character looks the same. Like the necromancer looks exactly like the barbarian, or not barbarian, but the what's the assassin dude, the witch hunter or whatever. In terms of once you get the maxed out with the maxed armor and all, it's just
Oh, you're saying that the cosmetic or the aesthetic difference between high level demon hunter and high level necromancer.
well, like let's see if I can find it. I didn't like the aesthetics in general, but
While you're doing that, something I wanted to make mention of, because you brought it up earlier, of the point of customizing your character if you never see your character. A lot of people gave Cyberpunk crap about that.
I mean they should. They should.
but-
It deserves everything it got for that.
I
Especially
really
'cause
liked it.
They promised though, you don't promise a third person camera and then scrap that. And then because that was the whole point of
Yeah.
all the cosmetics.
I will tell you, it was cool seeing your character in cutscenes, and it was really I used the camera mode in Cyberpunk more than any other game I think I've played,
I saw
except maybe Ghost of Tsushima.
I played like an hour when it was still on PS4 with all the bugs, and I never went back after they fixed it. I need.
Oh wait, you've never beaten Cyberpunk?
I've never gotten past the tutorial.
Oh my god, I really enjoyed it.
I was super bummed out with the bugs and the fact that they took away my third person. Like even if they could have just done like Fallout 4, where you only see it during talking points. That would have been fine. Give me my character. Let me see my character. I don't want all first person. Especially when you make a big deal about certain cosmetics for that game. And those people I know who had those cosmetics and were disappointed to look down to not see things. Now, a game that was good about first person viewing like that, Guerrilla Games did a good job with being able to see your character's body while in first person. When you climbed up and did various actions like getting in the guns, but I digress.
Guerrilla Games on what game?
Killzone.
Okay, I was about to say, because I know they've done. Have they done other things? Of course they've done other things. What is there another game they've done? Because
Horizon.
Horizon.
Their
That's what
biggest game to
I was
date.
about to say. I was like, wait, they've got a huge game out right now. What was that? But I'm trying to think first person. I was stuck in first person, and I was like, Killzone's the only first person I could think of. No, I really like the customization in Cyberpunk. So you never see your character outside of camera mode or the inventory screen. But I did something, and I'm guilty of doing this in a lot of games, where I will find a jacket. I had a yellow jacket in that game that I had on my character, and that's all she wore. I found better jackets with better stats, but that jacket looked so cool, I never replaced it. And I do that in like Tsushima. I'm replaying through Tsushima right now. I will wear outfits that are worse for the situation that I'm in just because I think they look cooler. Stats be damned.
Oh yeah, any RPG that has stats, because 9 times out of 10 it's going to be an ugly outfit that they give you, and it's going to be like, oh, here's your stats boost or whatever. But is this the jacket you're talking about right here? That's the jacket I had for my chick.
Let me
'Cause
look
that's
at this jacket.
Cyberpunk is a character or a game I played.
It is not that
Filo
jacket.
Hager.
It's some random. It's not like a rare jacket or anything like that. I think it was called a poser jacket. It was yellow. That comes in many different colors. It just worked with my character's aesthetic, and I'll be damned if my character's going to beat a game all powerful but not look cool.
Right?
Play the game and look cool. If I'm not powerful but I look cool, I will still play you, game.
Or at least I'll care more about you. Because if it's a game where I don't think the character looks cool, or I have no... Like, if the story's not gripping me, and the character looks dumb, or vice versa, it is gripping me but the character's dumb, like, I'll play it, but I'll be rushing through it. I won't want to sit there and look at the camera.
So you'll play a game based purely on style over substance?
Depending. But generally, yes.
But like cosmetics, I know I'm not the only one who gets that hardcore into like headcanon character fantasy customization, because Have you ever heard, or did you ever? I know you did. Gaia Online, because you were on there when I was.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely knew Gaia.
There was that forum from like the early aughts.
I can spell.
They put customization. You can unlock cosmetics in that game, and you got cosmetics by posting in the different forums, and you would just earn credits based on how many posts you did. That was a whole driving force just to get that stupid currency so you could customize your little avatar.
Yeah, the GP. Oh man, here's an old screenshot of the old front page. That's what I remember. Yeah, right.
Of Gaia?
Yeah, it's the classic. And see, I stopped going there when hacking was rampant on there, and all your items would get stolen.
Oh man, I don't remember that.
I had the angelic staff or whatever from like the first or second.
Because we were on there in like 2001, 2002.
I think it was 02 or 03 for me.
That's a good example. It's not even a game. I mean, it has games on there, but it's not even a game. But cosmetics and customization of your character or your little avatar drove that entire site. Because other than that, it was just a forum. I don't know when this episode is going to go out exactly, but we're playing through Gotham Knights right now for the Let's Play videos. The customization of that game, that's what kept me like really invested in that game, because you can get armor drops, and the aesthetic of the armor drop is kind of random. So the stats, obviously, they get better, but like it can look like anything when it drops or when you craft it. And once you unlock that aesthetic, you can unlock the transmog for it.
Oh, so there is transmog in Gotham Knights?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be dope. Because, yeah, that's my thing, like... I mean, it's not transmog so much, but like Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales, you having all the different suits.
I was about to say, you've got suit unlocks in those games. And that's one of those games where some of the suits, if I remember correctly, it's been a while, have different stats associated with them. Isn't that correct?
Yes, they had a special ability, but you could swap the special ability with the costume. It wasn't tied to it directly.
Right.
You could swap it out.
Right. That's good for what I'm talking about, is being able for that freedom of choice to make my character look how it is. But yeah, what are some of your what's your all-time favorite like customization game? Your game that you can live out that character fantasy, or what was like a good one from your past?
I probably have to say Fallout's are my top, just because that's the one I spent the most time in. Followed by Diablo 2/Diablo 3. I mean, Diablo 2 didn't really have that much, because your character wouldn't change all that much, but
you had that character fantasy in your head, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like your character was your character. You had he was a live thing to you, or she. I don't know.
Well, you especially on the OG, because I had a sorceress back when you only had 3 months to. You had to log in every 90 days, otherwise your account was deleted. And my level 80 is 6 source with full Taurasha set. It still hurts to this day.
Oh, rip.
Yeah. So she was my all-time favorite, because I probably spent the most time with her. But yeah, I'd have to say probably say Fallout.
So
because I do love just like a Bethesda, especially Fallout type of game, is a game where I'm like, I'll throw it on, and I don't care about like getting to the end of the game or whatever. I just want to hang out. I just want to spend some time in the world,
playing the game, living in that world. Yeah,
as the character, making, visiting various places, seeing what I can do or help or not help in certain circumstances, or
I think what
on top of collecting the power armor, because my character was a power armor collector.
For me, I think a critical game that hit me at just the right time was Disgaea, because you could create or recruit demons. And you could name the characters, and then you could customize them so far as like where you assign points when they level up.
See,
and
that's
things of that
stats.
nature.
I don't think that's a different category for me.
That is a different category. That is a different category. But that's what got me really into. Like, I was invested in every single unit in that army. And because the reason I said disguise, because that bleeds into the game I actually want to mention as being like one of my favorite dress-up games. That's XCOM. XCOM 2.
That's a better example, I'd say.
Because now I'm invested in these little units, these little armies, things, and it also passes, back and forth between the Warhammer feel too, because those are my guys. I customize what their armor looks, and I have a ton of mods for XCOM as well, cosmetic, and I get invested with those characters. Every single one of them's got a name, a backstory, interactions with each other, all up here, and that's all I need. And if a game can give me that, I'm good on it. I will play that game forever. Let us know down below. Let us know what was what was your dress-up game? What was the game that just allowed you to create that character fantasy, to live in that world, and allowed you to have your guy or gal?
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.